Alright, I gotta tell you my story here. The neighborhood I live in, it's a lower middle class neighborhood. It's not a bad neighborhood. I like living here. But this is not the richest neighborhood in Westchester County, to be sure. Now, there's a project in the works to rebuild the old Boys and Girls Club, which is just a couple of blocks up the street from me. Right now, this is a vacant, abandoned, condemned building, and it's been that way for 15 years because they haven't been able to, they lost funding and they haven't been able to get the money to reopen it because, you know, of course, nobody wants to pay for anything like this. But apparently, someone's got a plan. Seemed like a pretty good plan to me to reopen this, but it's got a few people up in arms because, of course, nobody wants poor people living in their neighborhood. This is the flyer that I got in my mailbox yesterday regarding the proposed project at the Boys and Girls Club on North 10th Avenue. The project, as proposed, is to tear down the old structure and rebuild a new structure with the addition of rental apartments above the club built by Westab. Westab establishes housing for the homeless and low-income families. Do we really want this in our neighborhood, and is this the right project for the club? Safety of the neighborhood and children will be affected. Property values will decrease. Quality of life will be affected. People will be moving in and out of this facility at all hours of the day. Who knows the background on these people? Would you send your child into this club knowing that there are strange people living at the facility? Increased crime, drugs, etc. Increased traffic flow in an already condensed neighborhood. Has a traffic study or an environmental impact study been done? What does the club have to do with low-income rentals and numerous other questions that need to be answered? You know, really, what's going on here is you have homeowners, people in this neighborhood, that just don't want to open their neighborhood up to these low-income families. You know, they're afraid their property values are going to go down. And to tell the truth, it just turned my stomach. It made me sick. I read this. I felt that it demanded a response. So I went to this meeting. And, you know, really I think the only people that knew about it, the majority of them anyway, were the people that got this memo, this flyer, that I learned at the meeting was actually being distributed by my next-door neighbor, a dick with ears. Real asshole. You know, he kept interrupting these guys while they're trying to give their presentation, trying to show what they wanted to do. You know, it just made me so fucking angry to see people's reaction to this kind of a project. You know, and let me show you what the project is supposed to be. Now, keep in mind, right now this building is vacant. It's condemned. It has to be torn down. It's not being used, and this is what they want to build. It looks like a pretty nice structure to me. You know, there's an underground parking garage with space for 40 or 50 cars. There's 2 floors for the club. They want to build a park kind of on the roof. You know, they're going to put grass and trees on the roof of the building, and you know, and up here, and it looks like a really nice building to me. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but the part that people are concerned about is this part right here. So what that is going to be 20 low-income, affordable housing apartments specifically for what they call grand families, which are families where children are being raised by their grandparents. This is a pretty common thing these days for one reason or another. You know, parents have problems. You know, they're not ready to raise their kids. You know, some of these parents get locked up. Some of them, you know, need rehab or some kind of treatment, and you know, these kids are left stuck with their grandparents. You know, now we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of people. This is there's 20 units, 2 bedrooms each, with a maximum of 3 occupants in each unit. So we're only talking about 60 people. 60 people in a community of 70,000, and you know, everyone's all up in arms about this project. Now, no one, of course, has any problem with the club. Everyone thinks the boys' club is the great idea, but it's these apartments that they don't want. Now, the idea with these apartments is that while they're providing affordable housing for these families, the rent from these apartments is going to fund activities at the club so that you don't need public money to do it, so that you have a sort of a self-contained system for generating revenue to support your activities at the club, you know? And this to me sounds like a really good idea, but of course, no one seems to want this in the community here. So while the people from West Hab and the Boys Club are giving their presentation, you've got this group of people that are they're interrupting. They're just looking for any reason to oppose this. I mean, this guy's taking notes and talking about conflicts of interest and the environmental impact. I mean, come on, there's garbage all over the streets in this neighborhood. It's just, this is not an issue. And they're making all these assumptions about the kind of people that are going to be living there. That this is going to be some kind of a destructive element in the community. And like I said earlier, this is really not. This is not the nicest neighborhood in Westchester. Not by a long shot. This place, to tell the truth, is kind of a crap hole. But it just made me sick that it seemed like all people really give a shit about is their property values. They give a lot of reasons why they didn't think that this should be done, but really underneath all that, I really only heard two things from people. I heard, one, I don't want the value of my house to decrease at all. Not even a tiny bit. And the other thing I heard was that, well, okay, I've kind of gotten used to the Hispanics, but I don't want any more poor black people in my community. This is what I'm hearing from these people, and it just turns my stomach. I mean, I literally had a gag reflex at one point listening to what some of these people had to say. I just can't, your property values are not going to decrease because of something like this. If anything, what's going to hurt your property values is the fact that there's a condemned vacant building sitting on a large lot in the middle of the community that's been there forever, and it just gets worse and worse. They talked about crime, but I've been here for 7 years, I guess, and the only crime I ever really experienced directly while I was living here was some vandalism to my car, and my guess is that was perpetrated by some punk kids who didn't have anything better to do. And, I'm going to make that assumption because I was a punk kid, and that's the shit that we used to do when we had nothing better to do. And the whole idea with this Boys and Girls Club, is to provide some recreation for these kids. And there's nothing like that in our neighborhood right now, And here you have this joint venture between, it's funded, it's taken care of, it's not coming out of the taxpayers' pockets, and it won't require any ongoing funding, hopefully, because of the apartments, because they're going to be generating revenue from these apartments. And I just don't understand why people are so concerned about this. I can't come up with any reason at all not to think that this is a good thing, not to think that this would be positive, beneficial to the community. I mean, this is a beautiful building. It's going to be brand new construction. It's not going to hurt your property values. But even if it did, I mean, you got to understand, man, that the reason we need to build this kind of housing is because over the last 10 years, property values here have quadrupled. I mean, are you so... If you bought a house here 10 years ago for $100,000, it could be worth $500,000 now, easily. I mean, are you so worried over that this project might slightly decrease your net worth, even if just by a few percent? I mean, are you so fucking greedy that you can't take a 397% profit instead of a 400% profit on the cost of your house? I mean, fuck you fucking greedy, apathetic, comfort-seeking waste of life. What the fuck is wrong with you people? That this is all you think about, I mean, sure, there's a slight chance that could happen, but, what... But is that really such a problem? I mean,